The fact that you can now have honored leading professors publish books about the Jewish lobby, about the Israel lobby, accusing us of being a fifth column. That couldn't have happened 10 years ago. You can get away with things now in attacking the Jewish community that you couldn't do. To some extent, we've overused it. I think, though, that the vast majority... Look, the dirtiest name you can still call somebody in the world today is Nazi. It's also a fact that it looks like those leaflets in Ukraine were printed up by the Ukrainians in order to discredit the pro-Russian rebels. The pro-Russian rebels are accusing the Ukrainians, and Putin is accusing the Ukrainians, of being anti-Semites. The Ukrainians are saying, no, it's the Russians who are the anti-Semites. Whoever dreamed that we live in a world where people would be trying to insult each other by calling them anti-Semites? It used to be, during World War II, when Roosevelt tried to organize small steps early in the war, he was accused on the floor of Congress of trying to help Jews, and he had to back off. It was a political poison pill to be accused of trying to help Jews. People did it openly, publicly, on the floor of the Congress. Fast forward 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, 50 years, and you've got, what's his name, Louis Farrakhan, trying to convince people that he's not an anti-Semite. He is an anti-Semite, but he wants people to believe he's not, because it used to be that you could be accused of helping Jews and it hurt you. Now you can be accused of hurting Jews and it hurts you. So it's a very different world today, and everything is upside down. As I said in my speech, nothing makes sense anymore. We haven't begun to make sense of the new world we live in.
You like to make the distinction between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. But do you recognize any overlap?
Oh, of course. There are people who oppose the Jewish state and Jewish statehood because they don't like Jews and they don't believe Jews are entitled. There are people who didn't want the Jews of Europe to get a country where Arabs lived, and eventually became anti-Semitic because they saw that the whole Jewish people around the world was against them. In other words, we're united behind a position that is a political decision to have a Jewish state there. So it's possible for people to dislike us, not because they hate us in some cosmic way, but because they're mad at us for something we did. Now, the fact is, we're not going to give that up. So we have enemies who are not anti-Semites, but simply enemies like anybody else has enemies. There are also people who hate us. There are people who go around shooting up JCCs. There are people who blow up buses because they want to kill Jews. And there are also people who are against the state of Israel who are Hasidim. They're not the Satmar Hasidim are not anti-Semites. It is certainly possible to be against the state of Israel for a great many reasons and not be an anti-Semite. But it's anytime somebody says, I hate the state of Israel, you have to look at their tzitzis and find out what they're really saying.